Hi, this is team number one presenting this screencast about leadership and change in healthcare. The presenters are myself, Nelia Garcia, Leslie Ladie, and Gloriana Cruz. The presentation topics are definitions and characteristics of complex systems, relationship between complex systems and leadership, change in complex systems. Leslie will be presenting types of change, resources needed to implement desired change, how to manage resistance to change, resistance to organizational change. Gloriana will be presenting obstacles to a desired change, suggestions to overcome obstacles, and the three of us will discuss strategies to enhance personal leadership. Okay, let's start talking about complex systems. What is a complex system? A complex system is a new approach to science that studies how relationships between parts give rise to the collective behaviors of a system and how that system interacts and forms relationships with its environment. What are the characteristics of a complex system? A complex system is any system featuring a large number of interacting components, like agents and processes, etc., whose aggregate activity is nonlinear and typically exhibits hierarchical self-organization under selective pressures. A system is complex if its relationships cannot be explained fully by merely analyzing its components because they are dynamic and changing, like the brain. It's an example of a complex system. But now let's go towards what we want to discuss: healthcare organizations and other type of complex systems. Complex adaptive systems, CAS, is a very important element in both complexity science and complexity leadership theory. Complex adaptive systems are the basic unit of analysis of both the complexity science and complexity leadership. They are open, evolutionary aggregates of interacting, interdependent agents who are cooperatively bonded by a common goal or purpose. Arising naturally in social systems, CAS learn and adapt rapidly and are capable of creative problem solving. Complexity theorists essentially frame organizations as complex adaptive systems that are composed of heterogeneous agents that interact and affect each other, and in the process generate novel behavior for the whole system. The image is showing an example of a complex adaptive system, which is a healthcare organization. Now, let's shift this conversation towards complex systems and leadership. Healthcare organizations are complex systems and is evidenced by increasing varieties in pressures from the environment. Traditional leadership is inadequate for operating in this context because it generates an ordered response that doesn't meet the needs of complexity. Leaders who respond effectively in these environments enable the framework of the complexity leadership. Complexity leadership theory emerged in response to perceived limitations in existing leadership theory. Much leadership theory is based in a bureaucratic framework representational of the industrial age in which it was developed. Complexity leadership is proposed as a framework for leadership in the fast-paced, volatile, and uncertain context of the knowledge era. Let's discuss the framework for complexity leadership. There are three leadership functions of the complexity leadership. We have administrative leadership, adaptive leadership, and enabling leadership. And with those three functions, we encounter the inspiration, learning, collaboration, guidance, cohesiveness, celebration, teamwork, value, equality, and encouragement in a complex system. Let's start talking about what is administrative leadership. Administrative leadership, being the bureaucratic function, is defined as the actions of individuals in formal managerial roles who plan and coordinate organizational activities. Examples of tasks that administrative leaders perform include structuring tasks, planning, building a vision, acquiring resources, managing crises and personal conflicts, and managing organizational strategy. Inherent in administrative leadership is the power to make decisions for the organizations, since it is a function based on authority and position. An example of this I thought about in my work setting. I immediately thought about the hospital CEO and the rehab director. They actually are the ones who said, this is what we need to do, so you guys have to do it. Okay, so they are the figures of authority, and we do what they say. We also have the adaptive leadership, which is defined as an interactive, collaborative dynamic that produces adaptive outcomes in a social system. It originates in struggles over conflicting needs, ideas, or preferences, and results in alliances of people, ideas, technologies, and cooperative efforts. It is a complex dynamic and a key source of change in an organization. They are adaptive, creative, they adjust to tension, they have informal dynamics among the other agents, and they're not an act of authority. And I thought, well, a great example is what we do. Clinicians and the rehab team, we adjust to all the tensions that come from the administrative leadership, and we make things work. We work together in informal dynamics and interactions. And we also have the enabling leadership as the other function of leadership in a complex system. This type of leadership catalyzes optimal conditions for adaptive leadership and manages entanglement between administrative and adaptive functions. And one example of this, I thought about my rehab manager. She influences the administrative leadership and helps the context. She facilitates and accommodates strategies that we need to structure or we need to implement. And when I say we, I'm talking about adaptive leadership. So I thought about her as a buffer between management and the rehab team. Now, let's talk about what we need to do in a complex system if we want to have a successful leadership process. In a complex system, leadership needs to foster conditions in which new behaviors and direction of the organization emerge through regular dynamic interactions. Rather than trying to control or exactly direct what happens within the organization, they influence the organizational behavior through the management of networks and interactions. The following 5 practices underlie the execution of such leadership. Let's start discussing foster network construction. Effective leaders need to develop networks within and external to their organization. It's good to develop new connections where none exist or enriching existing connections. One good example about this is my hospital partnering with other hospitals. They can exchange ideas, improve processes, and instead of competing one with another, they can actually complement services. We also have to catalyze bottom-up network construction. So, in addition to creating and maintaining networks, leaders also need to create the supportive environment in which new networks can emerge. Work environments can be reorganized to support interaction, additional decision making. Powers and trust can be extended to their staff, and even new rituals and myths can be constructed that help create a culture of interaction and networking. For example, complex leaders can catalyze network development by avoiding solving problems for workers, insisting rather that they work out their own issues collaboratively. And one example of this is what goes on in safety huddle and team conferences, where everybody talks about an issue and we get together and come up with different ideas to be innovative and solve our own problems. Continue with the leadership in a complex system. We talk about become leadership tags. Leadership tags are the binding philosophy that brings people together. So that means that we can become a tag to represent the essence of a philosophy or a concept. For example, a speech pathologist might serve as a tag for excellence in clinical service, but at the same time, it can build up the hospital's reputation. Complex leaders drop seeds of emergence by identifying, encouraging, empowering, and fostering connection between knowledge centers within an organization. Rather than trying to closely control, such leaders let people try new approaches and pilot the application of novel ideas, then challenges them to evaluate and adjust their experiments. Like, for example, when they allow you to go to trainings, you bring new knowledge to the company, which can result in innovation. Systemic thinking is central to complexity leadership. It challenges leaders to continually be aware of the interactive dynamics at multiple levels of engagement. This is not an easy thing to do, but is vital to consistently see the broader pattern of events and understand the network of events that have caused a problem. Example, in an organization like my hospital, it is vital to understand the causes of employee turnover from multiple perspectives to avoid economic and services losses. Now let's talk about complex systems and change. In a complex system, changes are the product of interactions between agents, and agents can be employees, workers, individuals. Changes are not a result of actions from single individuals. At work, usually you have your aha moment when you are sharing information with other colleagues, for example, in team conferences. Also, tensions between agents and pressures from management and challenges to their knowledge lead to change. When you have pressure from upper management about changing something, in my case, it was increased productivity standards. I was able to modify and see the obstacles when they put me in that situation. So I was able to improve my productivity because of that pressure from the higher management. And now Leslie will continue discussing types of change.
What is change? As Nelia has previously stated, changes are the products of interaction between changes. Change is situational. It could be a new technology, a new policy, new regulation, and new guidelines. It's something that presses us out of our comfort zone. Type of change: organizational change and change management. The objective in the organizational change management is to maximize the collective benefit for all people involved in the change and minimize the risk of failure implementing the change. Change management: it is an organizational process aimed at empowering employees to accept and embrace change in their current business environment. The goal of the change management are the successful design, implementation, measurement, and maintenance of an organization change initiative. In order to have success in change, you need to inform, involve, and engage every employee in the change process. Effective management of change requires the answer of the why a need for change. It involves the desire to support and participate in the change. It involves knowledge in the learning process about the change and the ability to implement new skill. This is when you turn your knowledge into action. Change can be hard and people can be resistant. This requires that the business owner communicates effectively throughout the process so everyone is on board. There are resources needed to implement desired change, recognizing the need for change, setting a vision for change, understanding culture and policies, promoting and employing leadership, identifying a change approach, plan the change, implement the change, confront the change process, evaluate the change, and start the learning process that will allow continual improvement. Evolutionary change is always happening. This often requires a whole new strategy, new structure, and even a new culture for the company. Managing resistance to change. Managing resistance to change is transitioning from old ways of doing things to new ways. Resistance to change is inevitable, and management must allow for some resistance when they are planning to implement change. To manage change effectively, administrator must understand employees' initial reaction to new proposal and be prepared to respond to it. Human beings tend to resist change even when change presents growth and development. Resistance is a natural part of the change process and is to be expected. Individuals go through a reaction process when they are personally confronted with major organizational change. This may be viewed as initial denial, resistance, gradual exploration, and eventual commitment. For example, This academic year, our school-based administrator designed to change paper record into digital. She widespread the change of transition from paper to electronic record. An initial denial was encountered. Employees' reactions are as follows. One employee said, I never had a course in electronic record. That isn't in my job description. I'm too busy to learn this. The other one said, she is more concerned with protecting her security than anything else. Resistance to technology was seen among employees. After gradual exploration of the software and its benefits in improving database for planning, evaluation, and treatment, and its benefit for monitoring and evaluating patient progress, the personnel avoid resistance for the unknown and commit themselves to accept changes with positivism. Roles of a team member in an organization. Effective communication is the clue. We have to inform the reason for the change, the why, the benefit of successful implementation, what is in for us and what is it for you, as well as the detail of the change, when, where, who is involved, how much it will cost. Serious repercussions may occur if proper measures are not taken to introduce the change. We must explain the reason for the change and manage the change effectively.
Hi everyone, my name is Gloriana. I will be talking about dealing with change and the common obstacles that a manager or a leader could see during the change process. I want to start with that quote: "The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." Who is in charge? Because alterations or modifications are present in almost every project, we ought to be good at handling them. Once the need for the change is already identified, who is in charge of the process? Many project leaders or those in upper management levels often request a change and then drop the ball on directing the goals of the change process, or can overseeing the change. But if you are the facilitator of the change, it does become your responsibility to see that steps related to the change process, and that these steps can include resistance, challenges, and acceptance of the change that are achieved. Let's mention three common obstacles that a manager or a leader could see in the employees during the change process. One of them is resistance. Let's mention some signs of resistance: unexplained physical illness, increased absenteeism, breakdowns and unconstructive communication, low productivity, and narcissism. As a change agent, the manager needs to keep a vigilant watch for these warning signs that employees are having difficulty in adapting to the change process. In order to identify the signs of resistance, a leader needs to establish a plan or strategies in order to prevent resistance. How can a leader do that? Utilize employees' expertise, because each one of the employees have different expertise. Acknowledge these losses and give praise. Expect and accept the mixed emotions and feelings that employees are experiencing during the change process and allow negative feelings. Another common obstacle is poor communication. Let's see some signs of poor communication. Failure to communicate change properly. Sometimes communication is not understood. No communication plans or campaigns. And unclear messages. Project management experts will tell you that a failure to communicate change properly is the number one reason why the change process fails. Let's see some communication plan or strategies in order to prevent the poor communication skills. Clear, concise, and authentic message. Promote a dialogue and provide the mission and the vision for the new direction during the change process. And the third obstacle that I want to mention is support and guidance. Let's see some signs of support and guidance obstacles during the change process. Support group until the change becomes commonplace. Develop posters, manuals, and guidelines outlining the change, and dedicate specific times to support personnel. Let's see a case discussion in the academic setting. Case 1. Elimination of admission requirements of the health science program. The major resistance that the administrative employees find is that faculty members asserted eliminating requirements will decrease student quality. A resolution in order to establish strategies to prevent that obstacles could be expertise of faculty members was used to define the outcomes, pros and cons were assessed, and the faculty member and employees will accept the change.
Gloriana, Leslie, and myself will discuss the strategies to enhance personal leadership. I will start with education because I want to continue to improve in every possible way, and this will be ongoing. During this month, I already found a mentor, and she will be sharing with me her experience, skills, and knowledge. After that, I would love to continue building my emotional intelligence skills, especially my self-awareness and self-regulation. Following that, I will improve my decision making, learning from my mistakes and developing strategies to keep going, making better decisions. I will continue knowing my company. I'm fairly new in this job and it has so many things going on. And right now they're expanding services. And I want to know different job functions and positions because I would love to develop different perspectives on what would I like to do later. And after that, I will set definitive goals and follow concrete action plans. I know I would love to have a leadership role, but right now I'm not sure in what area will be more clinical or more like administrative with education or something like that. So I'm exploring areas which I will be able to develop later a plan to continue.
Strategy to enhance leadership. As a leader, I must need to focus on the changes that are going to be implemented in my school-based work setting. I must be familiar with the unexpected changes. Then I must need to set strategy for a plan and planify how to implement the changes for acceptance. There are three phases. 1. Prepare for change. Phase 2. Manage the change. And the third one, transforms the change. As a leader, I must understand the organization change. I must identify groups that are going to be impacted, establish organization objectives, and document strategy. Deciding who does what, when, and how, I have to determine the resource required, the coordination of activity, and the people who are going to be involved. Those are the strategy that I'm planning to use in my work setting when unexpected changes are coming.
Let's mention some strategies to enhance personal leadership skills. I want to give an example related to enhance my leadership skills as a supervisor. Strategies to enhance my leadership skills as a supervisor are very important in order to establish good relationship with my supervisee. One theory that have important components in order to help me enhance leadership skills is chaotic theory. A chaotic theory elements that I will use to improve my leadership skills are the following. First of all, position. I have to establish positions between supervisor and supervisee. The leader will be the supervisor and the follower will be the supervisee. Interpersonal skills to give an effective feedback will increase the good human relations. Listening skills to improve decision making, creativity to implement new ideas, new approaches, and create partnership with my supervisee to have a better atmosphere and both work for the benefit of the patient and their families.
And always remember, don't be afraid of change. You might lose something good, but you'll gain something even better. Thank you for listening.